The Music of Life, Chapter 7, Sound and Light, two aspects of movement united by harmony. It seems that what science realizes in the end, mysticism realizes from the beginning. According to the saying of Christ, first seek ye the kingdom of God, and all will be added. When one hears of the present discoveries about sound and color from the scientific point of view, one begins by being surprised. One says, what a new discovery, something we have never heard of. It is something quite new. And yet, when you open the Bible, there it is. It says first was the Word, and the Word was God. And if you open the still older scriptures of the Vedanta, you read in their verses that in the Creator there was the Word, or the vibration. When we come to the Quran, we read there, first there was the Word, be, and then it became. The religions of the world, the prophets and mystics who existed thousands of years ago knew of these things. Today a person comes with a photographic plate and says, here I have a photograph of sound. This shows how important vibration is and its action upon the plate. One does not realize that it is something that has always been known, only it has been spoken of in spiritual terms. What has been spoken, we do not think about. What is being spoken, we think is something new. But when we realize that Solomon has said that there is nothing new under the sun, we begin to enjoy life, seeing how time after time the same wisdom is revealed to man. The one who seeks truth through science, the one who searches for it through religion, the one who finds it through philosophy, the one who finds it through mysticism. In whatever manner one seeks truth, one finds it in the end. Once in New York, I was introduced to a scientist who was also a philosopher. And the first thing he said about his accomplishments was, I have discovered the soul. It amused me very much that while all the scriptures, thinkers, mystics, and prophets have spoken about it, this man should come and say, I have discovered the soul. I thought, yes, that was the new discovery that we were expecting, something that we never knew. Such is the attitude of mind today, the childish attitude. When one looks into the past, the present, and the future, one sees that life is eternal. And what one can discover is that which has always been discovered by those who seek. Philosophy or science, mysticism or esotericism will all agree on one point if they touch the summit of their knowledge. And that point is that behind the whole of creation, behind the whole of manifestation, if there is any subtle trace of life that can be found, it is motion, it is movement, it is vibration. Now this motion has two aspects, and this is because we have developed two principal faculties, sight and hearing. One aspect appeals to hearing, the other to sight. The aspect of movement or vibration that appeals to our hearing is what we call audible or sound. The aspect that appeals to our sight we call light or color, and we call it visible. In point of fact, what is the origin of all that is visible, all that is audible? It is motion, it is movement, it is vibration. It is one and the same thing. Therefore, those who can see can trace color even in that which is audible and which is called sound. And to those who can hear, even the sound of color is audible. Is there anything that unites these two things? Yes, there is. And what is it? It is harmony. It is not a particular color that is in itself harmonious or that lacks harmony. It is the blending of that color. It is the frame in which it is placed, how the color is arranged. In accordance with that, it has its effect upon the one who sees. And so it is with sound. There is not any sound that is harmonious or inharmonious in itself. It is the relation of one sound to another, sound that creates harmony. Therefore, one cannot point out that this or that certain thing is harmony. Harmony is a fact. Harmony is the result of the relation between color and color, the relation between sound and sound, and the relation between color and sound. The most interesting aspect of this knowledge is how different colors appeal to different people and how different people enjoy different sounds. The more one studies this, the more one finds its relation with the particular advancement of a person's evolution. For instance, one will find at a certain stage of one's evolution, one loved a certain color, and then one lost contact with that color. With one's growth and evolution in life, one begins to like some other color. It also depends upon a person's condition, whether he is emotional, passionate, romantic, warm, or cold, whether sympathetic or disagreeable. Whatever be his emotional condition, in accordance with that he has his likes or dislikes in colors. It is that which makes it easy for the seer, for the knower, to read the character of a person, even before having seen his face, by seeing only his clothes. His preference for a certain color expresses what the person is like and what is his liking. His liking for a certain flower, his liking for a certain gem or jewel, his liking for a certain environment in his room, the color on his wall. All that shows what a person is like. What is his preference? And as one evolves spiritually through life, so one's choice of color changes. With each step forward, one changes. One's ideas about color become different. There are some to whom striking colors appeal, to others pale color. The reason is that striking colors have intense vibrations, and pale colors have smooth and harmonious vibrations. And it is according to one's emotional condition that one enjoys different colors. It is the same with sound. Every person, whether he knows it or not, has a predilection for a certain sound, although most people do not study this subject and therefore usually remain ignorant of the idea. Yet every person has a special liking for a certain sound. This explains the saying or belief that each person has his note. The fact is that each person has his sound, a sound that is akin to his particular evolution. Besides all the divisions that have been made, such as tenor, bass, or baritone, each person has his particular pitch, and each person has his special note on which he speaks. And that particular note is expressive of his life's evolution, expressive of his soul, of the condition of his feelings, and of his thoughts. It not only has an effect upon the people to hear certain sounds and to see certain colors, but it also has an effect upon animals. Colors have a great effect and influence upon all living creatures, animals or birds or human beings. Without their knowing it, the influence of color works in their lives, turning them to this or that inclination. Once I was visiting a house which had been rented by a certain club, and one of the members told me, "It is a very great pity. Since we have taken this house, there's always disagreement in our committee." I said, "No wonder, I see it." They asked, "Why?" I said, "The walls are red. They make you inclined to fight." A striking color from all around gives you the inclination to disagree. The emotions are touched by it. And certainly, those inclined to disagreement are helped by it. And it is from this psychological point of view that one finds in the East the ancient custom, especially at weddings, of a certain color being chosen for the time of wedding and certain colors for other times and festivities. It all has its meaning. It has a psychological significance at the back of it. Since color and sound are perceived differently, and we have different senses to perceive them, we have made a distinction between visible and audible things. But in reality, those who meditate, who concentrate, who enter within themselves, those who trace the origin of life, begin to see that behind these outer five senses, there is one sense hidden, and this sense is capable of doing everything that we seem to do or to experience. We distinguish five external senses. There are five because we know five organs of sense. But in reality, there is only one sense. It is that sense which through these five different organs experiences life and distinguishes life in five different forms. So all that is audible and all that is visible is one and the same. It is this that is called in Sanskrit Purusha and Prakriti, and in terms of the Sufis, Zat and Sifat. The manifested aspect is called Sifat, the outer appearance. It is in the manifestation of Sifat that one sees the distinction or the difference between what is visible and what is audible. In their real aspect of being, they are one and the same. According to Sufi mystics, the plane of existence, where they are one and the same, is called Zat. That knowledge of the inner existence in which one sees the source and the goal of all things. Color and sound are a language that can be understood not only in the external life, but also in the inner life. For the physician and the chemist, color has a great significance. The deeper one goes into the science of medicine and of chemistry, the more one recognizes the value of color and realizes that each element and the development of change of each object is distinguishable by the changing of color. The physicians of old used to recognize diseases by the color of the face and body. Even today, there are physicians whose principal way of recognizing a person's complaint is from the color in his eyes, of the tongue, the nails, and the skin. In every condition, it is color that is expressive of a person's condition. Also in objects, the condition and the change of the object is recognized by the change of color. The psychologists have recognized the condition of objects by their sound and that of people by their voice. What kind of person someone is, whether strong or weak, what his character is, what his inclinations are, and what his attitude is towards life. All this can be known and understood through his voice. Color and sound are not only the language by which one communicates with external life, but also the language by which one communicates with the inner life. One might ask how this is done. The answer is found in certain scientific experiments. Special plates are made, and by speaking near such a plate, one makes marks upon it with the sound and with vibration. Those marks make either harmonious forms or inharmonious forms. But every person, from morning till night, is making an invisible form in space by what he says. He is creating invisible vibrations around him, and he is thereby producing an atmosphere. Somebody may come into the house, and before he speaks, you are tired of him. You wish to get rid of him. Before he has said or done anything, you are finished with him. You would like him to go away, for he is creating in his atmosphere a sound, and this sound is disagreeable. There may be another person with whom you feel sympathy, to whom you feel drawn, whose friendship you value, whose presence you long for. Harmony is continually created through him. That is a sound too. If this be true, then it is not only the external signs, but also the inner condition, which is audible and visible. Though not visible to the eyes and not audible to the ears, yet it is audible and visible to the soul. We say, I feel his vibrations. I feel this person's presence. I feel sympathy or antipathy towards that person. There is a feeling, and a person creates a feeling without having said anything or done anything. Therefore, a person whose vibration is wrong, without doing or saying anything wrong, creates the wrong atmosphere, and you find fault with him. It is most amusing to see how people may come to you with a complaint. I have said nothing, I have done nothing, and yet people dislike me and are against me. That person does not understand that it is not what one says or does, it is what one is that speaks louder than anything one says. It is being. It is life itself that has its tone, its color, its vibration. It speaks aloud. One may wonder what it is and where it is to be found. The answer is that what little man knows about himself is only about his body. If you ask someone to say where he is, he will point at his arm, his hand, his body. He knows little beyond that. There are many who have asked, but where do you think you are in your body? Will say, in my brain. They limit themselves to that small physical region which is called body, thus making themselves much smaller than they really are. The truth is that man is one individual with two aspects, just like one line with two ends. If you look at the ends, it is two. If you look at the line, it is one. One end of the line is limited. The other end of the line is unlimited. One end is man. The other end is God. Man forgets that end and knows only the end of which he is conscious, and it is the consciousness of limitation that makes him more limited. Otherwise, he would have far greater means of approaching the unlimited that is within himself, which is only the other end of the same line, the line that he calls, or that he considers to be himself. And when a mystic speaks of self-knowledge, This does not mean knowing how old one is, or how good one is, or how bad, or how right, or how wrong. It means knowing the other part of one's being, that deeper, subtler aspect. It is upon the knowledge of that being that the fulfillment of life depends. One might ask, how can one get closer to it? The way that has been found by those who searched after truth, those who sought after God, those who wish to analyze themselves, those who wish to sympathize with life, is one single way, and that is the way of vibrations. It is the same way as of old. By the help of sound, they have prepared themselves. They made these physical atoms, which had gradually become dead and alive again by the help of sound. They have worked with the power of sound. As Zeb Unisa said, say continually that sacred name which will make thee sacred. The Hindus have called it mantra yoga. The Sufis have termed it wazifa. It is the power of the word that works upon each atom of the body, making it sonorous, making it a medium of communication between the external life and the inner life. What one realizes as the first experience of one's spiritual development is that one begins to feel in communion with living beings, not only with human beings, but animals, with birds, with trees, and with plants. It is not a fairy tale that the saints used to speak with the trees and the plants. You can speak with them today if you are in communication. It was not only the ancient times which were thus blessed with the old blessing. The old blessing is not old today, it is new. It is the same ancient one that was, that is, and that will be. And no privilege was ever limited to any period of the world's history. Man has the same privilege today if he will realize that he is privileged. When he himself closes his heart, when he allows himself to be covered by the life within and without, no doubt he becomes exclusive. No doubt he is cut off from the whole of manifestation, which is one whole and is not divided. It is man himself who divides himself, for life is undivided, indivisible. And it is opening communication with external life, which makes a person wider. Then one does not say of a friend, this is my friend, I love him, but this is myself, I love him. When one has reached this point, one can say that one has arrived at the realization of love. As long as one says, I feel sympathy with him because he is my friend, one's sympathy has not yet been fully awakened. The real awakening of sympathy is on that day when one sees a friend and says, this is oneself. Then the sympathy is wakened. Then there is communication with oneself. People do not close themselves only from external life, but also from the inner part, which is still more important. That inner part is also sound. That inner part is light. When one realizes this, one knows that language, which is the language of heaven, a language that is expressive of the past and the present and the future, a language that reveals the secret in the character of nature, a language that is always receiving and giving the divine message that the prophets have tried at times to reveal. The nature of creation is the doubling of one. It is this doubling aspect that is the cause of all duality in life. One part is positive, the other negative. One expressive, the other responsive. Therefore, spirit and nature in this creation of duality stand face to face. The first aspect is sound, and the next is light. In these nature aspects, or responsive aspects, at first only the light works, but when one goes deeper in creation, there is sound. In nature, which is face to face with spirit, what is first expressed is light, or what one first responds to is light, and what one responds to next, what touches one deeper, is sound. The human body is a vehicle of the spirit, a completed vehicle that experiences all the different aspects of creation. This does not mean that all other forms and names that exist in this world, some as objects, others as creatures, are not responsive to the expression of the spirit. In reality, every object is responsive to the spirit and to the work of the spirit, which is active in all aspects, names, and forms. of the universe. One reads in the Masnavi of Rumi that the earth, the water, the fire, and the air before humanity are objects, but before God they are living beings. They work at His command. As we understand living beings working under the command of a master, if creation can be explained, it is the phases of sound or of vibration which manifest in different grades in all the various forms of life. Even what we call matter or substance, and all that does not seem to speak or sound, is in reality all vibration. And the beauty of the whole of creation is this: the creation has worked in two ways. In one way it has expressed, and in the other way it has made itself a responsive mold. For instance, there is a substance, matter to touch, and there is a sense to feel, to touch. There is sound, and at the same time there are ears that can hear sound. There is light, there is form, there are colors, and at the same time there are eyes to see them. What we call beauty is the harmony of all one experiences. What after all is music? What we call music is the harmony of the audible notes, but in reality, there is music in color, there is music in lines, there is music in the forest where there is a variety of trees and plants, and there is harmony in how they correspond with each other. The more widely one observes nature, the more it appeals to one's soul. Why? Because there is music there. And the wider one's outlook on life becomes, the deeper one's understanding of life, the more music one can listen to, the music which answers the whole universe. But the one whose heart is open need not go as far as the forest. In the midst of the crowd, he can find music. At this time, human ideas are so changed, owing to materialism, that there is hardly any distinction of personality. But if one studies human nature, one sees that even a piano of 1,000 octaves cannot reproduce the variety of human nature. How people agree with one another, how they disagree. Some become friends after a contact of a moment. Some in many years cannot become friends. If one could only see to what pitch the different souls are tuned, in what octaves different people speak, what standards different people have. Sometimes there are two people who disagree, and there comes a third person, and all unite together. Is that not the nature of music? The more one studies the harmony of music, and then studies human nature, how people agree and how they disagree, how there is attraction and repulsion, the more one will see that all is music. But now there is another question to be understood, that what a person knows is generally the world he sees around him. Very few trouble to think that there is something beyond what they see around them. To many it is only a fable when they hear that there are two worlds. But if one looked deep within oneself, one would see that there are not only two worlds, but so many worlds that it is beyond expression. That part of one's being which is receptive is mostly closed in the average man. What he knows is expressing outwardly and receiving from the same sphere whence he can receive himself. For instance, the difference between a simple person and a thinking person with deeper understanding is that when a simple person has received a word, he has heard it only in his ears, whereas the thinking person has received the same word as far as his mind. The same word has reached the ears of the one and the heart of the other. If this simple example is true, it shows that one person lives only in this external world, another person lives in two worlds, and a third person lives in many worlds at the same time. When a person says, where are those worlds? Are they above the sky or down below the earth? The answer is that all these worlds are in the same place as that person is himself. As a poet has said, the heart of a man, if once expanded, becomes larger than all of the heavens. The deep thinkers of all ages have therefore held that the only principle of awakening to life is the principle of emptying the self. In other words, making oneself a clearer and more complete accommodation in order to accommodate all experiences more clearly and more fully. The tragedy of life, all its sorrows and pains, belong mostly to the surface of the life of the world. If one were fully awake to life, if one could respond to life, if one could perceive life, one would not need to look for wonders. One would not need to communicate with spirits, for every atom in this world is a wonder when one sees with open eyes. In answer to the question as to what is the experience of those who dive into life and who touch the depth within, Hafiz has said, "It is not known how far is the destination, but so much I know that music from afar is coming to my ears. The music of the spheres, according to the point of view of the mystic, is like the lighthouse in the port that a person sees from the sea, which tells him that he is coming nearer to his destination. What music may this be? If there were no harmony in the essence of life, life would not have created harmony in this world of variety, and man would not have longed for something which was not in his spirit. Everything in this world that seems to lack harmony is in reality the limitation of a person's own vision. The wider the horizon of his observation becomes, the more harmony of life he enjoys. In the very depth of man's being, the harmony of the working of the whole universe is summed up in a perfect music. Therefore, the music of the spheres is the music that is the source of creation, the music that is heard while traveling towards the goal of all creation. And it is heard and enjoyed by those who touch the very depth of their own lives." End of chapter 7.